Okay, so in this video we're going to talk about some of these other questions. So we just finished doing the questions 4 and 5. Question 6 asks for the sample mean for each group. Okay, so I'm going to do that below the histograms. So sample mean for healthy, we'll start with the diseased. Disease, blood, smear, cell widths. Okay, so I'll start with the sample mean. Actually, I'll put that over here. Okay, and then there's a function in Excel called average. So I type average, and then I highlight all the data. So I'm just going to press on the data with my clicker, and then scroll all the way down. And the parentheses, and there we go. There's the average. Okay, and then if I want to do for both of those, for the diseased one, or sorry, for the healthy. Okay, same deal. Type in average. Start the parentheses. Okay, highlight all the data, and press enter. And there's your sample mean for the healthy blood smears. Remember, my answers are going to be different because this is different data, but the process to obtain your answers is going to be exactly the same. So that's for question number 6. Question number 7 is the sample standard deviation. Okay, so actually, I'm going to copy these, Control C, Control V, paste. Instead of sample mean, I'm going to say sample SD. Okay, SD stands for standard deviation. So then here I'm going to write let's see, standard, or maybe it's deviation. I think well, let's see, SD. You see, it lists all the available functions when you start typing. So when I did standard, oh, there we go. So standard deviation. So now this dot P is for population, and this dot S is for sample. So I want the sample standard deviation, not the population standard deviation. So I actually just click on that once I decided that's what I want. I could type it or click on it, and then highlight all the data. Okay, so all of the disease blood smear data. Alright, close the parentheses, and there we go. So this SD, DV, DEV, dot S. Okay, highlight all the data for the healthy blood smear. Okay, so there's the sample standard deviation for both of those. Okay, so that answers how to do number 7. What percentage of the distribution lies within one standard deviation of the mean? Okay, so to do that, first you need to figure out what is one standard deviation from the mean. So you could write 1 SD from mean for disease blood smear, cell width. Okay, so that will be the sample mean plus the sample standard deviation, or you could start with minus. Okay, so that's a lower, and then the upper will be sample mean plus the standard deviation. Okay, so there's the lower and the upper for the for one standard deviation within the mean. Okay, and then we can use the function COUNTIF to find portions that are within that range. Okay, so how to use COUNTIF? You just type equals, and then you write COUNTIF. And we're going to have more than one criteria. We need it to be between both of these numbers, so we're going to use COUNTIFs. And then we'll highlight our data. Okay, and then we'll say, alright, so COUNTIF, and the criteria is, for the first one, we want it to be more than, to use the greater than sign, 4.84. Okay, I'm rounding up. Okay, and then the second criteria, so I have to highlight the data again to let it know it's same data. We need it to be less than 6.29. Okay, so notice I'm using quotes, and then I'm writing the sign, and then I'm writing the number. Alright, so if I use that, so that says that 17 data points are in that range. Okay, so n, sample size, for this, sorry, go insert one there. Sample size is, I could count it, right, just using the count function, highlight all the data, is 30, okay? So the percentage that it lies within these two numbers is going to be 17 divided by 30, okay? So 56%. So this, you could say, this times 100 to make it a percent. 56%. Within one standard deviation, right? So then you do the same thing for the healthy blood smears. Change this from disease to healthy. All right, and here we were saying within one standard deviation for the disease. Here, so we say this minus the mean for the healthy minus the standard deviation, one standard deviation for the healthy. Okay, and then the same thing here, the mean plus one standard deviation for the healthy. Okay, and to find the count, so we can actually just copy this function up top here, so we don't have to type it all over again, and just change it slightly. So instead of it being here, I can actually just pick it up and move it to make it for the healthy. So I can just pick up that and move it. Okay. So notice it's changed from being A to B, from the B's. Alright, and then change these numbers. 4.96, and change this one to being 5.90. Okay, so that's the number that is between, number of observations that are between one standard deviation away. So there's 19 observations. I need to find what percentage that is. So I take 19, I divide by 30, which is sample size. So 63% are within one standard deviation for the healthy cells. Okay, and then I have to do the same thing for 2 standard deviations and 3 standard deviations. So the only thing that changes when I change this to 2 standard deviations, everything is exactly the same. 2 standard deviations, except, so I do the mean, then I subtract off 2 times the standard deviation. Okay, so I do the mean, and I subtract off 2 times the standard deviation. Okay, same thing here. So here's the mean, subtract off, oops, here this should have been added. Okay, so plus, right, the lower and then the upper. So this one should be the mean minus 2 times the standard deviation for the healthy, and this one would be the mean plus 2 standard deviations. Okay, and then we use the same COUNTIF functions. I can actually just copy these COUNTIF functions. Okay, make sure it's highlighting the correct data, but I can just copy them. Notice that I'm copying these COUNTIF functions from up top here. Okay, that's important. If you were to copy the cell, then it might mess up the formula. So copying it from up here. The way I'm doing that is I'm highlighting it and then pressing Control-C. Oops. And then press Enter. And then when I go here, double click up here, paste it, Control-V up top there. Alright, so I just need to change these numbers. So instead of being 4.84, now it's 4.11. And this would be 7.02. Okay, and this one should be 4.496, or that's the same thing as 4.5, round. This one is 6.37. Okay, and then we just need to figure out what these numbers are divided by 30 times 100. This number divided by 30 times 100. So you see here 100% is within 2 standard deviations from the mean. Okay, here 93% is within 2 standard deviations from the mean. Okay, lastly, I just need to do this again for 3 standard deviations from the mean. Okay, so the mean minus 3 times the standard deviation. This one would be the mean minus 3 times the standard deviation for the healthy. The mean plus 3 times the standard deviation. And this one would be the mean plus 3 times the standard deviation. Okay, we can take our countif functions, Control C, Control V, Control C, Control V. Okay, change the numbers. So instead of being, this one would be 3.38. This one would be 7.75. Okay, and this one would be 4.03, and this one would be 6.84. Okay, so now all these numbers are 100%, right? Equals 30 divided by 30 times 100, right? So 100% of the data is within 3 standard deviations of the mean. Okay, so for questions 9 and 10, you will think about this. Look back to your notes. You don't need Excel. You can use this information that you have obtained from answering question number 8 in order to answer question 9 and 10. Okay, in the next video, I'll talk about how to do question 11, and then that'll be it for using Excel.